Welcome to the Startup Leader Show, where we speak with leading founders and executives. My name is Lisa Dreher, and I'm your host for today. We are really excited to introduce our guest for today, Sethu Saveda. He is the founder and CEO of ReOrbit. Welcome to the show, Sethu.
Thanks, Lisa. Thanks for having me here.
Absolutely. Maybe you can start by giving us just a little bit of background on yourself and ReOrbit.
Yeah, so I'm originally from India, but I've been living in Sweden now. I think this is my 13th year. So I came here to do my master's, but eventually ended up doing my PhD and a postdoc, all of which have been into the space sector. So I've been working on looking at different materials for deep space exploration. So during my PhD, I was looking in silicon carbide-based electronics for Venus exploration. Later, during my postdoc, I was also looking in different new solar cell materials for novel applications like solar thugs and solar sails. During that time, I also spent some time as a visiting researcher at JAXA. So that's been about 9 years of my initial career in space. After about 9 years, I felt like I've been sort of doing a lot of futuristic stuff, but I wanted to sort of get back to the actual ground reality. And I was also very interested in sales and business development. And I found a job as a sales manager at ASE Clyde Space, which is based in Uppsala. So I worked for about 1 year with them before starting ReOrbit. And the big sort of motivation for me was actually this transition from being in this academic world where you see all the exotic things, all the frontier tech, and then you get back to actually the ground reality about by selling stuff. Then it was like a big punch on my face when I entered into the market selling these components. So the gap between what was going on research and what we were selling was probably 20 years or even more. So that sort of always felt like this is not the right way to go. And also, the more I started selling, the more I started talking with customers. It even felt very awkward because it felt like space was just stuck in the Apollo program, and nothing has changed since the Apollo program. And I'll get into that quickly. And whereas in terms of space ambition, we are looking like very much forward looking, like people are talking about going to moon now, mining asteroids, going to Mars. And with this there was this big mismatch between what we wanted to do and what the technology is. And that's exactly what why I started ReOrbit, to be this bridge between taking space where it is to where it wants to go.
Wow, that's really exciting. So maybe talk a little bit about what ReOrbit is actually working on.
Yes. So now, as I said, today things are still done like the Apollo way of doing things. I would even actually say like things are no different from Sputnik. So if you actually look at Sputnik was a largely hardware first approach, or it's a very monolithic way of building things, meaning that every single system design today is based on an hardware first. And even worse, it's not just hardware first. Every single system design is even married to a particular vendor of an hardware. So this is pushing space into this huge non-recurring cost, a lot of vendor lock-ins, and we are seeing this even more predominantly in this COVID times, that all these avionics or electronic shortages directly affecting the supply chain of the avionics, and also the long lead times. Not just that, like space today is very highly manual. Like all the operations today are still very manual, and also space is very monofunctional, meaning that every single satellite that's designed today, from the day you're sort of conceptualizing until the day it ceases to exist, it's designed for a particular payload. Now, assume like there's a satellite up in space, one of the smallest component breaks, regardless of 95% of the satellite still being functional, we are just dumping this, creating tons of space debris. And that's what we are trying to change by making satellites, one, autonomous. Two, we are also making satellites to reconfigure in space, meaning that we are making satellites to connect with each other and giving the ability to exchange data, exchange information. Thereby, what we could then do is that once you have this connected and distributed architectures in space, then let's say if a smallest component on a satellite fails, instead of just dumping, you could connect to the nearest satellite and start still using the resources of the nearest satellite and still be functional. But also, if you want to go to all these applications of moon and mining asteroids, you cannot be like very monofunctional. You have to have the ability to build systems in a much more modular and distributed manner in space.
Wow, that sounds amazing. So we invited you here today to talk a little bit about how you've built your business and, kind of the successes and the challenges. So maybe we can jump into this by just starting with what have been your biggest keys to your success so far?
I would say the two things. One is so today there's a big sort of template. If you're a space startup, there's a very unwritten template that every single startup follows. You register your company, look for the institutional money, get these institutional money from, if you're in Europe, ESA, or if you're in US, NASA, start developing your product, and then start commercializing maybe few years down the line. And that's something when I started ReOrbit, I was very clear that we are not going to look at the institutional way. I mean, we are going to survive either with the customer money or we are just going to die. So that was something that we sort of were very clear on, primarily because when you start catering the needs of let's say these big agencies, then you're sort of developing a product probably that's very exotic, but also that's very niche, that exactly fits the requirements of ESA, which is almost most of the time does not find a product market fit within the commercialization. So in that sense, that helped us a lot. This kind of a mentality helped us a lot, where we started really going out to the customers, but also we were having this feedback loop from the customers from day one, where we actually developed a product that's finding great traction today. That's one. And two, also it's about team, and I think every great startup is about having the right team, but also it's about not just finding like great people, but finding great people who have sort of same synergies with the mindset. So I would say like that's what I think in ReOrbit. It's quite nice that we are very diverse people with a very similar mindset. I think that helps a lot. So I would say these are the two, say, key factors, at least so far, that's driving ReOrbit forward.
That's great. How have you gone about finding the right people? How have you met up with those people in the first place?
Yeah, I mean, we actually have a great team. I mean, just to quickly name some of them, like we have Ignacio, who used to be the former VP of engineering at ISI. He played a big part in ISI's success. The former Director General of European Space Agency, Jean-Jacques Dordain, he's sitting on our advisory board. We have the former VP of Connectivity at Airbus sitting here. Also a VP of Engineering, Carlos. He used to work for Airbus and INVAP as a Chief Systems Engineer. We have people from ISRO, ESA. So it's a very dynamic team. And I think I would say like being in the right place at right time, that's probably the thing. I mean, you have to be at the right place at the right time to find these people. And that's one part of it, but also I think it's about one, showing your vision. So that's the thing. And also all these people who've been working for like last 20 years, they know deep down like this is not the way, and to actually sort of build things. And that's what was very consistent that I've been hearing. Like every single person that I spoke who's on ReOrbit team, they have like different experiences working on different subsystems and different sector within space. But then the conclusion they come to is exactly same. Like this is not the way to build space, and you have to build it differently. And that's exactly what sort of attracted them. And once you sort of also bring this different approach of finding the product market fit using the commercialization and so on and so forth, that's also quite an appealing thing for these people.
Absolutely. Huh. Interesting. I think you kind of see the space agencies, even to certain respects, going in that direction as well. I think some of the recent NASA proposal programs have focused on, hey, show us how your solution is going to be, commercialized. So they almost understand that
Yeah.
is a bit of a challenge.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's true. I think NASA is at least ahead in this regards, where I think they're now acting more like an VC rather than an governmental agency, which is very good. But also, I see like Europe or ESA is also going along these lines now. Now they've opened up commercial contracts to the startups in ESA, and also now they have launched few programs where they're trying to sort of one educate the European venture capital segment, but also they are trying to also make sure that there is a very strong commercialization push behind every single penny that the agencies spend. So that's a nice way to go. But again, I think there are two things. One, there's a mindset change on how you sort of look at the commercialization part, but also on the other side, you should also have a mindset change about how you would build things. So hopefully that mindset change would also come, where we are not still stuck in the legacy of how space used to be built.
Sure, sure. So, over the years, what have been some of the most valuable business lessons that you've learned?
I would say persistence. Definitely, you need to have a lot of persistence. I mean, you you have to be sort of, yeah, you have to be persistent, but also you have to have patience as well. So I mean, I for one like to get things done very fast. So that's been my sort of big learning, that you have to be patient, but you have to be persistent. uh, and also what I've learned is, like, a lot of times people hesitate to ask others. Like, for instance, there's a like I would say, like, my experience with getting Jean-Jacques Daudet, the former director general of European Space Agency. So I met him like few times. We've been talking, and then I felt like it would be great if he could bring his experience on board ReOrbit. Then I just one day went and asked, would you be open to actually sitting on our advisory board? And he was fine with it, and he was even very happy that I sort of approached. So what I learned is, like, it's you have to ask, and if you ask, I think most of the time you get an answer. So I would say, like, these are the three things: like, be patient, be persistent, but also be open to asking things.
Yeah, it never hurts to ask, right?
Yeah, exactly. The worst thing you get is a no.
Yeah, what do you have to lose?
Yeah, exactly.
Great. So, knowing what you know now, is there anything that you would have told yourself when you first started out?
Yeah. I would say maybe there are so many things, but I would say, I mean, when I started, I sort of had a notion that you have to be in a single place. You have to sit in, like, for instance, we started at Stockholm and Helsinki. So I had a notion that you have to have your team sitting in. So we sort of lost some talent because they were not able to move into where we were sitting. Then in light with COVID, we now have a fairly distributed team. So it actually works great because we are finding great talent, and things work even smoother. So I would say, like, maybe there were some of the recruits where we just lost because we were sort of very closed in our mindset then. So I would have probably been, yeah, I would have advised that be open to actually just having these distributed teams. It's more about the passion and talent that people would bring. So sitting in Stockholm or in US, it doesn't really matter these days. So
Yeah, indeed. So, how do you kind of, are there things that you're doing to keep your team connected and, I guess, engaged? How's that work?
yeah, so we are distributed over 4 countries now. We are a very small team. I mean, we are like 16, 17 distributed over 4 countries. So what we do is, like, we have this constant, like, weekly things, or almost like, so we also have, like, we have 3 departments, like sales, engineering, for instance, and market. So we also make sure that they speak every day, so that they could sort of keep things together. But also, one thing I personally like is that for every experienced person, I like to tag along someone who's junior. So they are sort of, and this is my experience from my days during the PhD and the postdoc time. So you always have a mentor mentee kind of a thing. So I mean, at ReOrbit now, we almost have, like, those kind of mentor mentee kind of a thing, where you have one experienced person, one junior tagged along. So in that way, I think we would develop the second set of leadership, and I've seen, like, from my experience, lot of times it's you would have a very strong top level leadership, and then as you go down, that sort of loses. So that's something I sort of trying to make. But also what it helps is that now we have like mentor and mentee who's distributed in 2 different countries, so they talk quite a lot, so that sort of keeps things together. And then we also have these weekly fikas, which is very Swedish thing or Scandinavian thing, where you just have a break and then just talk everything but work. So we have these kind of weekly fikas where all team comes together and have a coffee or beer on Friday and talk everything but work.
Oh, that sounds great. One of the things that we hear a lot from startups is that they run into roadblocks along the way. What have you found have been the most effective ways of dealing with those roadblocks that you kind of inevitably run into?
I would say first, the biggest thing is like we shouldn't be egoistic. Listen to people. There's a lot of experience around us. Again, especially for me, we have teams. My management team is almost having the same experience as my age. Some of them. So that helps a lot if you're sort of open to listening. So I would say that's helping a lot. I'm very open to sort of even taking a lot of feedback personally on myself and just talking. But also, time will sort of settle it down. We need to work for it, but also, if something is there, just be calm, just be cool. Time will sort of settle it down. So that's something, again, I think that's something I always have. So I'm not too stressed about things generally. So that helps a lot. And I've seen that now a lot. Like we face a roadblock every day almost. So just take it calm and things will go.
Sometimes things just work themselves out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Or most of the times things just works out if we don't get stressed and mess it up.
Absolutely. Okay, so I want to end with one more question, and that is, if you could make one prediction about the future of space, what would it be?
Yeah, I would actually. This is always my favorite ending statement, so I'll go with that. So if you look at computers, the computer industry and space industry started very simultaneously. And today, if you think about computers, we think about distributedness. We think about things connected. We can just take these things for granted. Whereas space is still like very point to point. So I would say in next 5 years, space would become very much like computers, meaning that everything up in space is fully connected. Everything up in space is very distributed. So we are no more looking space as a very single entity or a satellite as a single entity, but we will start looking satellite as multiple entities that are distributed, where they have each single entity will have a small functionality, but then as collective, they operate as a single big satellite that we know of today.
Ooh, that sounds exciting. Okay,
yeah.
So as this happens, we're going to have you come back on and we'll talk all about that.
Definitely. Yes.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for being here today, Sethu. It was really amazing talking with you, and hopefully we will have you back again soon.
Thanks, Lisa, for having me. It's a pleasure talking to you. And everyone, have a great day.